Terry, we have a streak going.
We do have a streak.
You keep bringing back friends, colleagues, acquaintances, people you know, homeless guys you met on the street, and today we have kind of the opposite of that.
Yeah, we're our trash little podcast here. We're graced with the presence of Bindu Reddy. I've known Bindu for a little over a year. She's the founder and CEO of a startup called Abacus. Great human being, very smart. She's going to teach us a thing or two about AI.
I have questions for both of you. So my knowledge of AI is unclear at this point. Terry keeps saying that I know more than I let on, but I don't feel like I know a lot. So I will say that I've spent a little bit of time talking to people in academia who are AI researchers in industrial spaces. And I sometimes try and read their papers, and they sometimes make sense depending on how many equations are in them. But I always find myself wondering, how far is this from being commercialized? So this is a question for you both, but I'm gonna let Bindu go first. Terry, sorry.
First of all, thank you, Terry and Russ, for having me. Yeah, thanks, Terry, for that very nice introduction. I feel like being called a nice human being is probably the most important thing more than anything else. How far is it from being industrialized? I mean, you're talking to someone who is like a hardcore believer, right? So I'm going to go with it's already industrialized in a lot of ways. Meaning, I mean, AI is a very broad term. I mean, if you really go look it up, it's kind of everything to do with teaching a machine something at some level, right? Like even a rule-based system, you could call that AI, quote unquote. Just saying, hey, if you see this, do that kind of thing, right? But at its very basic form, it encompasses machine learning. So things like, hey, teach the machine whether there is a hot dog in your image or not, at the most basic form. So it's really broad. And if you think about how AI is getting adopted or machine learning is getting adopted over the last couple of decades, it's actually been more so in the structured data regime, meaning looking at like tabular data, which is available in all sorts of databases in all of these organizations, and asking questions like, hey, especially if I have hundreds of thousands of customers, which of my customers are more likely to get upsold to my new product? Which of my customers are going to get churned out? Which of, if I'm like doing demand, if I'm doing forecasting, my questions will be more like, if I'm a supply chain company or a manufacturing company, I want to answer questions like, how much of my product will I sell in the next couple of years or the next couple of months? And these are all today machine learning and or AI models, and we use those terms, I think, at this point in a very interchangeable way, already industrialized, right? But now there are a lot of new people coming in and saying, hey, what about chat LLM? I mean, what about this, like, really cool, like large language model stuff? And that, in terms of going to production, of course, the consumers are using it. Chat GPT has millions of subscribers already. That, in terms of going to production and becoming kind of an AI brain for your organization and stuff like that, I would say is, some of it is beginning to happen, but it will happen over the next couple of years in a much bigger way, where more and more organizations adopt this, and there is just a rush to adopt it today.
Well, now I want to cut Terry off because I have another question about that.
I'll have my time. It's okay.
Well, so you made me think, Bindu, about particularly the very first thing you said about how AI is this very broad term. When you're talking to prospects, customers, even competitors or potential recruits or something like that to the company, do you talk in terms of AI, or are you talking in terms of specific use cases or applications or tools?
Oh, it's a good question. I think it depends on who you're talking to. I'm a big fan of talking to the person. I mean, basically listening to who they are and what they want. I think we do talk at some high level about AI too, basically trying to prompt people to adopt it. I think right now, I mean, for example, the company, the Abacus.ai that Terry mentioned, our whole vision is AI will build applied AI systems, right? Not humans, AI will build it. Now, when we started it, people just looked at us like we were mad, because we started in 2019 and nobody could believe that AI could build everything end to end. Now, when we say that, almost everybody looks at us and says, of course. I mean, this is nothing new. So my point is, depending on who it is. And if someone's like really kind of bought into like the, kind of the hype or even the promise of AI, then you get into the specifics. To your point of like, now get into the details, like what are we actually going to help you with, or what is important for you. Is that forecasting, is that personalization, is that churn, etc. But if there's someone like a little bit more kind of like, I don't really know why I should be talking to a person, to a company like you, then we talk more in the broader terms.
How do you feel about that complete turnaround since 2019? I mean, it's only been 5 years, but things are completely different.
So it's like, I would say, when we made this bet, right? It was a high level bet on where the world is going. And before this, I was at Amazon, and I was seeing that sooner or later AI is going to have like enough innovation that this is inevitable, right? I mean, of course, if you're living and breathing this space like I have been, it's very hard to convince somebody like me. Even in like say 2015, I would have said, hey, this is what's going to happen. Then
Mm-hmm.
the whole question was timing. Like, is this going to happen in 2021, or is it going to happen in 2025 or 2030, right? And even like 3 years ago, everybody said, hey, we're about 10 years, maybe 20 years out from like AI being more autonomous than not, right? I mean, we're not going to, it's not going to be autonomous. There's going to be a lot of like hand holding. Now everybody's like, oh, we're 2 years away. So yes, the turnaround has been extensive, but it's also how technology works, I feel like, right? You have one breakthrough, and then everything just like accelerates because of that breakthrough. And then you have 3 or 4 or 5 years of like extreme innovation, and then suddenly sometimes things really slow down. And you're seeing this with AR VR right now. I don't know if you guys have tried the Vision Pro. Everybody was like, oh, AR VR is not going to happen. Forget it, it's dead. And now I'm looking at the Vision Pro, and I'm like, oh my god, this could be that moment where we're going to see a lot of stuff happening in that space. I felt like the Chat GPT release, the first version, like GPT 3.5, which was about 18 months ago or so, was that moment, right? In so many ways, we were kind of like, we were doing well, but we were still struggling to convince our customers that we should use AI, struggling to get machine learning models in production. Now the customers convince us.
It really resonates when you talk about the high level bet and inevitability. So it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. I feel like that is, well, first of all, that has happened in my life explicitly. I was working on structured data for industrial equipment, and structuring data for industrial equipment was something that was already in the works. While you'd still have people be like, why would I want the data off the equipment? Right. So we're solving this underlying infrastructure problem while the customer base is still like, I don't even care about the thing that I'm going to get if you solve this problem. And if we had been waiting for the problem to be further advanced, and when I say I was just coattailing, right? Like, this was not me placing a bet. This was me getting lucky. But yeah, it really resonates to think about, make a plan and pick something that's inevitable.
Yeah.
Terry, have you had yours yet? Me and Bindu are over here, like, having made these bets and so far lucked out on it.
I like the conversation. No, I have a question, Bindu, just switching gears a little bit. I'm assuming that you have been and continue to be enthusiastic about the science and math of AI, that you enjoy that space personally. Juxtapose that with founding and running a business. There's a ratio of sort of wonderment about the math and science of AI and the mundane of running a business. How do you navigate that? And where do you find yourself? Which end of the spectrum do you find yourself in most days?
That's a seriously good question, because there are times when I think I have been like, "Hey, did I pick the right, right? Did I make the right choice in my life? I mean, should I have just been a scientist, or should I have just done research?" And interestingly, when I was in grad school, that was something which I considered seriously until a point where it became very obvious, maybe even in grad school alone, where it was like, "Hey." Building on science and math sometimes doesn't have real world impact, or doesn't have real world impact immediately, right? I mean, you can go write your research paper, but before that research paper actually gets into production, that's my favorite word right now, being used in the real world, takes a long time. And that issue exists even till today. But AI is one of the few spaces, I would say, where we're a lot more closer in terms of science and math and real world application, right? I mean, if you take something like biology or something, the distance between lab and real world application is years, right, in terms of time. Whereas in AI, I would say it's months. So what we've done, I think, which is very different from almost any other startup in the whole space, is we've devoted a lot of time to our research department, our time and energy, right? We've actually got resources working on the research, on AI research. And more importantly, off late, we've been doing open source AI. I mean, we right now are on top of the open source leaderboard in terms of open source foundation models. And the point is, while that's interesting, foundational, important, inventive, it can also be applied in the real world. So for a company like ours, which is actually small, this actually is easier to do than a company like Google, actually, because you can take that math and science, and we're not sitting far away from each other. We're very small, so we know what's going on, and we can just apply it immediately, right? So the first question is, yes, it's interesting, but in some ways they converge, because if you could invent things which are which are useful in the real world, maybe your business will do better, if that makes sense. All right, so that focus has helped us a lot in the past, and I think will continue to help us. And then on my own self, in terms of what I find how I have to spend my time, I think mostly it is about product more than anything else. Meaning, I spend some time with math and science, but our researchers are very good. They don't really need me, and I'm not that great. But customers are great too, and I had to spend a lot of time early on in the evolution of the startup with customers. But now, we're at a place where we have enough customers where we can spend our time making our product 10x better than anything else in the industry, and incorporating that science and math and everything else. And I personally enjoy that the most.
Yeah, I will say, to tag along what you said, your platform is unique, I feel like, in that respect, and that things that are 5 minutes ago were high level research papers are embedded as part of your product platform. So I think that's a neat feature of the Abacus platform. You mentioned a bit ago about sort of in 2019, or at the beginning, at the early stage of Abacus, betting on sort of, this is the way the world's going to work. This is the way the AI world is going to work. What informed your decision, or what informed your decision making to choose the path that you choose, or to see it going in the direction that you thought it would go? Like, were you reading Gartner? I doubt it, but what led to that?
Yeah. Okay. So I think the first thing is, generally, I've been very excited with machine learning and AI part, because I started in the early days of my career. I used to work at Google, and Google generally was a company which was obsessed with AI and machine learning, much more than they are now. Interestingly, meaning like everything was machine learning like 15, 16 years ago, right? And so being kind of like intrigued by that, and being kind of living in that world, I always knew machine learning was interesting. Now, in my last startup, we did make some changes, or we did actually build some machine learning models, which actually had a phenomenal effect on our revenue. A single ML model increased our revenue by, I think, 25 to 30%, which is very hard to believe if you think about it. Most people are still kind of like, oh, really? Does it make that much of a difference? So I've always been a believer, let's say, with AI and ML. And in terms of like, why did we make the bet saying AI will build AI? Well, all of you probably remember this whole a story about AlphaGo, right? A long time ago, basically, DeepMind, which I think Google acquired by then, basically solved the Go game using this concept called reinforcement learning. So it basically was like the computer was learning, in some ways, how to play the game, and then when it learned how to play the game, it defeated everybody else, right? So that was this technology called reinforcement learning. And then you could kind of see the future at that point. You could see that computers will learn tasks, computers will understand how to do things, and then building applied AI systems is actually quite painful. Anybody who's a data scientist will tell you that. There's a lot of data engineering, there's looking at the data, explaining the data, creating the model. So it's not something which you would say fundamentally humans are going to be good at compared to a computer. because the computer can look at lots of data at some point, it can understand it, it can do all these tasks. So when you put two and two together, which says, hey, what's do we think computers will do more and more tasks autonomously? Yes. Do you think there is like real high value in making these the AI build AI? I mean, clearly, if it can actually build it completely, you'll see that inflection sooner or later, right? Instead of building like 10 AI models in a year, people will build 100, and then everything gets automated. It's almost like a vicious cycle, or virtuous cycle, actually up. So that idea really was fascinating. So that DeepMind, kind of invention, combined with, in early days there was something called auto ML, which is basically the idea of creating a model based on the data. It doesn't do a lot of the other stuff. It does something basic, but you could look at that basic idea and like kind of like look back and say, why can't we do this completely autonomously? May not be in 2019, we don't have the technology, and very frankly in 2023 too we don't, or 2024. I think it's almost there but not quite. But believing that was kind of easy, I would say, given those two things, the auto ML piece and the AlphaGo piece.
Yeah, you had Russ. I have two more quick questions, and then the floor is yours. I like to think of applied AI in terms of the practicality of doing it in production. Then I also like to think of sort of the parallel hype or the art of the possible. In that vein, it feels like in social media circles there are two sort of parallel, sometimes overlapping schools of thought. One is that AI is going to destroy humanity.
Yeah.
The other is that AI is all hype and it does nothing. And sometimes people maintain, there are some folks that I read that maintain both of those positions somehow simultaneously. So where do you come down? Obviously there's nuance and probably the answer is in the middle, but what do you see with those two schools of thought?
I mean, I think at this moment it's kind of ridiculous to say that AI won't do anything, right? I mean, we know we have so many examples, like, Google search is powered by AI, Vision Pro is powered by AI, the Tesla car is powered by AI. So clearly AI can do something. So we can't say, hey, it's useless, so to speak. And I do think that a lot of people think that, actually. They still think that it's not that great, it's not that fantastic. But I think those are just the naysayers, I would say, because there's a lot of proof to prove otherwise. But the ones who are saying the other extreme thing, which AI is going to destroy us all, I think don't seem to understand how like humans work, right? At some level, we have consciousness and agency. Now, we may not be able to like clearly tell you exactly what consciousness is. I can't write a mathematical equation for consciousness, but I know I'm conscious. I mean, so do you, right? We exist. We have kind of like thoughts about what we want to do. We have goals. We have intent. We have agency, and this agency didn't come from someone programming us. Yes, like we are, the environment is inducing us, and kind of like correcting our goals or like tweaking our goals, but. There is no other maker or anybody else who's like, kind of controlling that. Today, AI doesn't have that consciousness. There is no doubt about it, right? We can't say, "Hey, AI is conscious," or it has intent. Because if I like let an AI model, on a computer, it doesn't wake up one day and say, "Okay, let me find ways to like break in or break out of this computer." It's not even attempting to do that, or not even doing anything for that matter, right? It's in this other extreme. So the question then becomes: these people who are claiming that AI is going to destroy us all have to produce a viable scenario as to how it will destroy us all. And when push comes to shove, they really don't have an answer other than saying, hey, maybe consciousness is going to emerge one day. Like suddenly, one fine day, some AI model will suddenly become conscious, right? And the theory behind that statement is usually is something like, oh, if the LLMs are kind of like doing delightful things right now. So why can't it be that tomorrow's LLM can become conscious? The answer to that is no, LLMs aren't doing, unpredictable things. When you actually dive
Yeah.
deep and understand how LLMs work, these things are actually predictable, meaning we are expecting these LLMs to do the things that they're doing. We just need to understand them more, maybe, but it doesn't mean that, one fine day, AI is going to wake up and become conscious. There's no proof of that. So that's one, meaning it's not going to destroy us because it doesn't have consciousness and agency. And if you push them, the second thing they will tell you is they're not actually afraid of AI waking up. They're afraid of bad actors abusing AI. So that's
Yeah.
a different argument, right? And if
Yeah.
you go down that argument, the problem is I'm afraid of people using knives in a bad way. I'm afraid of having people use the computers in bad ways or the internet in bad ways. Now, this is not to say that AI is more powerful, so therefore it can be used in bad ways, clearly. But what do you regulate, or what do you have laws against? It's the bad use of AI, right? Because unlike guns, which are mainly used for shooting things, as far as I can tell, AI is actually mainly used for good things. So the amount of gain or advantages or good things that happen because of AI is about 10x higher, or maybe 100x higher than the bad things that could potentially happen. And my bias would be to regulate those bad things and not the AI itself, right? With everything that's powerful, there are going to be more and more bad actors trying to use that powerful technology, whether that's crypto, whether that's internet, whether that's a computer. And I think you'll see that with AI too. And so we will have to have some safeguards protecting us from these bad actors, but not be so scared as to not even invent AI.
Yeah.
It's crazy because crypto, you're talking about guns versus AI and whether the intention is normal. There is still an open question as to whether crypto does good things or is mostly for drug money. There's no equivalent open conversation about AI, right? Like
Exactly.
it's powering search, it's powering matching tools, it's powering other pieces of software that have 20 layers on top of them that are widely commercialized and widely understood and widely transparent. So I'm very sympathetic to your case
Yeah,
there.
I love your distinction there with bad actors using the technology, because I wonder how much death and destruction has occurred over the years from newspaper and from things said on television.
Right.
And
The misinformation. Yeah, exactly.
exactly. So, final question. This is a selfish question, and feel free to pass if you don't want. RAG versus fine tuning. Why?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite topics. So happy to answer that. And so, just for everybody in the audience, just to describe that a little bit, I don't know if everybody knows. RAG. So, if you take an LLM today and you want to create a custom application for yourself, which is maybe make that LLM have a custom chatbot or work on your own knowledge base or make it do a particular task. You can't just use it straight up by just calling out to the API. So you can't just call out to the GPT, open AI's API, or even for that matter, Abacus API and make it work. You have to modify it. So the two main ways of modifying these things, the first approach is called RAG, retrieval augmented generation, where what is basically happening is there's a knowledge base and then there's an LLM sitting together. The knowledge base basically has a search index on top of it, or of some sort, where it's basically retrieving information which is relevant to your query, sending that information then over to the LLM. The LLM will then make, a response which is sensible. It understands your query and then creates a response from that information which is sent to it in real time from that retriever, right? And so this is the combination which is very powerful. So today, Google search works on this combination, right? There's always going to be this retrieval index because all of this information is changing all the time. So when you're looking at the web, there are many, many web pages being created. You need to get all those new web pages in, index them, be part of the retriever, and get information from there. So very useful. Approach has succeeded quite a lot, and is also a very sensible idea if your whole goal is to teach the LLM new things in terms of knowledge. So if you're just saying, hey, here is a new piece of information, understand this new piece, parse it, and create a reasonable response, this is the way to go. Fine tuning is changing the LLM itself, changing the weights of the LLM to perform a particular task better. I mean, that's the best way to think about it, right? So, for example, if you said, hey, I have a new querying language, like SQL is not SQL, but it's different. It's a custom language that my company created. For example, let's say Palo Alto Networks, which is a big security company, has their own security language that they use to configure their firewalls. Now, if you want the LLM to learn that, then there is no way RAG will work for you. You'll have to teach it how to learn that language. And when you're teaching it that new task almost, you have to fine tune. So these are two extremes where there's only knowledge that it needs to understand and parse and create a response. That's very clearly RAG. If there is some new task which you have to teach it, then it's fine tuning. There are some cases where you are looking for, more knowledge, and you need it to perform a task more subtly, like for example a document generation. You might want to say, hey, I have a bunch of knowledge here, but I want to like create a document which looks like a contract, which you don't know much about. Then you can do both. But usually it's very easy to classify which way to go and what's the right answer.
Yeah. Awesome explanation. Thank you for that.
I have so many, so many questions. I had to pick one though. I want to know about as you talk about productization. How do you balance getting the stuff that's sort of basic infrastructure but doesn't necessarily have a explicit front end use case for a customer? How do you balance that with the customer needs XYZ problem solved, but maybe there's this giant iceberg of things that have to be fixed first? How do you do that? I'm basically asking you a simple question. How do you do all of your product management?
Right, product prioritization, right? Yeah. So I think a lot of the issue comes down to like designing things right and anticipating the future of it, right? So that's very hard to do. This is not to say that we do it right all the time, but if you are building out a new feature, if you or a new module, features are small, but a new module is something really important. If you kind of design it right from the get go, you can like anticipate what's going to happen. So for example, if you're going to build data transformation, you can anticipate, hey, these data transformations might need, you might need to run code over your data sets so that you can have data transformations which are very powerful. Like it won't just be a data transformation which just says take this data set and transpose it, right? It could be very general. So one the thesis that we've applied very much to our product is to come up with these general ideas which are very powerful to begin with, so that it makes kind of building new things easier. The second part of this is, hey, how do you balance like ongoing customer requirements, which are many, and the minute you have multiple enterprise customers, it just becomes this, I would say, a humongous spreadsheet of customer requirements. And like, how do you like fix core problems, right? And the way we've looked at it is, this has been a long haul, to be honest. To build this product, it's like a huge big, it's, people kind of think of it like, oh, Tesla is such a big deal. But to build a world class state of the art AI ML platform which runs these enterprise class systems inside the platform is no small deal. It has taken quite a few years to get here. There's been a lot of effort put into the product and stuff like that. And so we really always are thinking about not just plugging that customer requirement that second, but kind of looking at it holistically and saying, hey, does this make sense for our product? And if it doesn't make sense, how do we actually get that customer requirement satisfied in a different way that the customer is happy with, right? We don't want to just piss off the customer. At the same time, we don't want to create one of those enterprise products which are just long and crazy and insane. And I'm sure we've seen some of these. I hate to say it, but Salesforce is a bit like that.
Salesforce is the poster child for that.
Exactly. So you're like, what is going on here? I cannot understand what's going on here. So we want it to be as intuitive as possible and as clean as possible. Again, I don't think we've gotten everything right, but that's our goal. I think we've gotten it more right than Salesforce.
What's your favorite problem you've solved for a customer?
What's our favorite problem? I think right now, I tend to be very much in the moment, I guess. But right now, we're solving for a very interesting kind of chat LLM use case for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. They're a very heavy document heavy company, and they have a lot of data as well. So this is quite interesting because they have like tons of like database data, structured data, and then they have a ton of like knowledge based data, and they want to query everything together, including maybe like uploading documents, right? So it's kind of like, hey, can we create one place where all your data is available at the fingertips for your employees?
Thank you. That sounds like so many things from the past, the present, and the future all kind of mingled into one.
It's kind of like something like this was happening all the while, right? Now
Right,
it's actually, it's actually, there's a really good experience you can create.
Exactly.
That same problem. Yeah.
Ted, do you have anything else?
No, I just want to thank Bindu for coming on. I learned something. That's the goal of why we do this, interesting conversations and to learn something. And that certainly was the case today. So thank you a million, Bindu. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I
Bindu,
like your backgrounds, both of yours. Great.
I will
Thanks.
happily come to wherever you are and put my kids' artwork on your walls if you like. So that's all. That's all I got to do.
I will try my best next time.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Awesome. Well,
Thanks, guys.
we're gonna take you up on the next time piece there, Bindu. Have a great day.
Take care, you guys.